All right. This one is of the three modules in the core expansion, not counting the second sun itself, which the system layout with the barrier. But of the three modules, this is the one that has the most maybe interesting change that it's introducing. It is change. So let's talk about it. And that is the Specimen Research Module. First off, what is it? What it is a way for you to collect specimens and do stuff with them during the game. Experiment with them. Breed them. Currently, our current rules, we're still developing some of this. You can do these things and more. And critically, it replaces the end game scoring, and it turns that end game scoring. They all still work and calculate the same way that they did at the end of the game, but now they do that during the game. And as you experiment with them, you might get a breakthrough, and you might actually be able to score one of those specimens at the end of one of your turns. That's great. You might also have an outbreak where it breaks containment, and now it's loose on your ship, and it might actually harm some of your passengers or your crew on your ship. So other things can happen, but it introduces a way to have specimens feel much more interactive during the game as opposed to just this end game scoring mechanism. Why? Why are we doing this? For a few reasons. I'll say it started as one reason, but then it kind of grew into more. It started as one very important reason. In cooperative mode, your whole purpose is to work together to defeat these invasions, and you do that by solving a bunch of tasks and projects and missions. And once you've satisfied the correct number of missions, maybe pushing for an epic win where you deliver a big detonator to a mothership and explode the mothership, and you have the epic win. But as soon as you either fulfill your projects or do the epic win and blow up the mothership, you win immediately. That's it. Game over. You won. Or if the invaders reach the final conquer step, they've won. Game over. Immediate. You don't count score at the end of the game. It doesn't matter how much credits you have individually. And for that very reason, end game scoring for specimens makes no sense in cooperative mode. So we thought long and hard about a lot of different things, like, do we care? Do we leave it? Do we maybe still add the end game scoring and it's like an added, like, we won, but how good did we win? Well, a lot of games do that with cooperative modes. It's just not what we felt. It wasn't the direction we wanted to go with it. So we said, well, what if we make specimens do something, worth something, valuable in some way during the game? And that's what this research module that's where that grew out of. And I'm in love with it. So we'll explain a bit about how it works. But some of the other things that kind of emerged, I'll say incidentally, specimens were a little more complicated. They're more complicated than passengers and ship upgrades. Ship upgrades, move your ship pieces apart, put the upgrade in, the ability's right on it. It says what it is. Passengers, you put them to the side, go to the planet, you get the ability. It says it right there what it is. I mean, the specimens say what they do and how they score as well, but there's more icons, there's the vitals, there's the different calculations and how they work, and it all only matters at the end of the game, and only if you were going for collecting specimens. So what happened was a lot of times people, especially new players, would kind of ignore them and say like, well, I'm given the choice of +2 to my battle rating, or +1 to my rocket rating, or this specimen that I don't understand. And I don't have to deal with it until much later, but it doesn't sound as fun as getting battle rating or rocket rating, right? So it would kind of be this system that gets pushed to the side a little bit. And so again, giving a little more interesting, a little more teeth to them seemed to make sense. And it just kind of, again, grew out of this, and it started to be like, oh, and it kind of addresses this in a good way as well. Another thing is ships with large specimen holds. You might never fill up that hold with all those specimens in all those different slots that you have. And so the value of those slots is somewhat lost. If you have a ship with a lot of specimen slots, part of the cost, even though you're not buying your ship in this game, but they're mathematically balanced, you might be losing out on some of that value. So that's an element. And all of these things just started to converge. And as we develop this specimen research module, it's like, it just gives some extra options and a really creative thing that you can do now, and more incentive to actually take that specimen, because as soon as you take one specimen and it's on your ship, you now have a new end of turn option. So let me talk about this as well. We're going to streamline the concept of an end of turn action. It technically was already there, we just didn't call it that. At the end of each of your turns, you are either in space doing nothing, or you land on a planet or station. And because as you know, when you meet up with a planet in space, that ends your turn and you then land. You do landing procedures. Or you explore an anomaly, same thing. If you meet up with an anomaly in space, it ends your turn. Well, so essentially what we're now classifying very clearly is there is one end of turn action that you can do. Landing is one, exploring an anomaly is one, and now specimen research is one. So you can only do one of these actions. Meaning, if you are ending your turn in space, because you're not landing or exploring an anomaly, then you can do specimen research. So that's a nice clean way to structure these, like, what are your options and when do you have them? So if you end your turn and you're in space, not landing, you can now optionally do specimen research. Currently, as of the moment I'm recording this specimen research, you have a few possibilities. You can identify one specimen that's on your ship that you will be experimenting with. And based on some die rolls, we're going to have some new custom dice that are part of this. You might succeed in experimenting on it, and you can get the value of whatever is written on the bottom. And that means if it says you get 2 credits for every green specimen on your ship, and you have 3 green specimens on your ship, great, you get 6 credits. Boom, done. At the end of your turn, during the actual game, you just immediately got 6 credits for that specimen. And you can experiment on them again next turn. You don't lose the specimen. Now, there's some push your luck going on here because you might have a containment failure and that specimen might escape. And then at the start of your next turn, they might attack one of your crew. It's not guaranteed. And then you have a way that you can recapture them, and hopefully you do, so that they don't hurt your crew or passengers. And then another option, we're kind of still working through the details of how this might work, but I think it's really cool, is the idea of breeding specimens. If you have more than one, then you have a chance of essentially drawing from the Explore deck a certain number of cards based on how many you can try to breed together. And you draw those cards, and if there is a specimen among them, then you get to keep the specimen. That will help fill up your hold with specimens faster. And by the way, specimens are good not just for experimentation, but also these new invasions. We call it scientific research, that essentially some of these invasions will require some amount of scientific research to be done to fulfill the mission, the projects, the tasks that are being presented. We'll talk about those in a separate portion of the video. So specimens, even if you never experiment on them, never breed them, never make $1 from them, a space buck from them, you will still be able to use them. You can deliver them into these missions to essentially fulfill some tasks that require a certain value of a specimen collection. So all of these things come together to create something that's really dynamic, really fun, really different, and we think you're going to love it. So let's go top down and we'll show you the pieces a little bit closer. Okay, let's talk about specimen research now. Now, we have 2 new dice at the moment that we're playing with. We're also entertaining the idea of streamlining this a little bit further and maybe reducing it to just 1 die. But I'm going to explain the 2 die system, and we're actually going to talk about this during the campaign and get your thoughts as well on some of this. The way specimen research works is this. You have a ship, you're out in space. At the end of your turn, if you didn't land on a planet or touch an anomaly, so you have another option now of an end of turn action, and that is engage in specimen research. And what you're going to do is, with the current rules that we're considering, you're going to roll this research die. And let's just give it a whirl and see what happens. All right, so what I got was score your leftmost specimen. So I look on my ship, and let's say I have this specimen in my leftmost slot. This specimen normally would give, at the end of the game, for every specimen that weighs 1 to 10 units, get 2 credits. And this one itself weighs in that range. But here, it's saying you're going to get that immediately. Because when you're playing with this module, there is no end of game scoring. So score the leftmost specimen. That means I look at the leftmost specimen, I calculate how much it's worth, including my other specimens. I look like for any of the other ones that also weigh 1 through 10. I will get that bonus. And so let's say I get 2 credits or 4 credits because it comboed with another one. I immediately get those credits. Done. My research phase ended, and it was a success. I made some money from researching this specimen. However, what if I rolled that symbol right there? That is a containment failure. And what's going to happen is then it says the leftmost specimen escapes, and you flip it over, kind of like a damaged upgrade on your ship when you take damage. But in this case, you flip the specimen over to indicate that it is escaped. And now at the start of every one of my turns, if I have an escaped specimen, I have to roll the attack die. And now there's a chance that this specimen is actually going to attack one of my crew or my passengers or another specimen. So you can also recapture specimens during your research. Instead of rolling the research die, you can opt to recapture any escaped specimens that are on your ship. Those are the rules that we're playing with. There's another idea we're also toying with, which is breeding, which would be instead of rolling and instead of trying to recapture, you can say, I want to breed my specimens. As long as you have 2 or more, you would draw from the deck of Explorer cards a number of cards equal to how many specimens you have, which has to be 2 or more. And if any one of those is a specimen, you may keep it. So you have successfully bred, and you're going to fill up your bay a little bit faster with more specimens, which of course mean more potential points when you roll this, and more potential breeding if you want to go down that road. Also, these specimens in co-op mode are used for project cards. We'll get to that in a separate video. That is the thoughts around the specimen research module.